Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in a prior video we took a look at this beautiful camp axe from Sam Farnworth of Firekeeper Forge. And in that video we talked to Sam about his axes, his knives, and all of his custom hand-forged work. But today we have another one of his products to show you. Here I have the brand new prototype for his splitting axe. This here is the prototype, and at this point he has not yet done a full production run of these. Now I did manage to get my hands on one. I told him I wanted to get into the process early, so I did buy one of his prototypes to document it here, get it on film, take a look at it, see how it performed, give him some feedback, but also demonstrate it to all of you. So this here, absolutely beautiful. Now I'm supposed to be getting to work today, working on my deck and getting it repainted for summer, but to me, I'd just much rather play with this beautiful axe, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. So in this video today, we're gonna take a look at this for the first time. We're gonna do some splitting, and then Sam doesn't even know it yet, but I'm gonna get him on the line, and we're gonna talk to him about this in a little more detail so you know what to expect and how you can get your hands on one of these beautiful splitting axes, and as well as all of his other gorgeous handcrafted work. But with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. So yes, here we have the new splitting axe prototype from Sam Farnworth of Firekeeper Forge. Now, if you didn't see my prior video, I do strongly suggest going back and taking a look at the camp axe, which at this point I have used at length and I greatly enjoy it. And I think here this splitting axe is going to be a magnificent addition to my axe and tool collection and lineup. Now, in full disclosure, I've never owned a splitting axe. In fact, the closest I've come to something that has done significant splitting work for me is this Gränsfors Scandinavian forest axe, which has a 25-inch handle and a fairly robust head. Now this has done a huge amount of splitting for me, but when you take a look here, you'll notice that the head is not all that broad. I mean, this is really a forest axe, and at the end of the day, it's still fairly lightweight. But in comparison, when you take a look at this splitting axe from Firekeeper Forge, well, you will see this head is absolutely a monstrosity. Now at this point I don't have all the specifications. All I know is this feels wonderful in my hands. Now there were a few things that I was able to select. First off, the shape of the head. That's the first thing. You can either get this, which is called the bearded, or you can get more of a standard head. That's the first option. Second is the handle. So the material and the color, I mean, they're all going to be wood, but this particular one, I did want to get the dark handle pretty much to, I would say, match my forest axe. So here, the camp axe, I should say. I did want to match it, and it is a little bit different just in the way it looks from all of my Gränsfors brooks. So kind of sets it apart and makes it just a little bit stand out. But next is, I actually opted to go with a 25-inch handle. Now, Sam might correct me, but I believe his intent is to go more towards a 28-inch handle. I chose 25 because of the length of the Scandinavian forest axe. As I mentioned, this has done a ton of splitting for me, and these are almost exactly the same length. So the reason why I chose the slightly shorter handle is because I do a lot of splitting from my knees. I do find for me, where I don't handle axes a ton, that for me being a little safer, kneeling down, I really don't need quite as much reach. Now it might cut down on a little bit of leverage, I do understand that, but I would rather have a little better control than a little more leverage, and I'm okay if it's diminishing the chopping power and splitting power by a little bit. I don't think it's going to be much based on what I've seen in terms of the performance of this splitting axe. And now beyond that, this does not come with an overstrike guard, and I definitely wanted to protect the handle. And I've been very successful with paracord wraps, so I've done a nice weave here, just a good tight weave right on the handle, and then I actually soaked this in boiled linseed oil which at that point makes it really hard and firm. This is not going to slip or slide, and it makes it good and durable and capable of taking the strike. So overall, this is definitely ready to go, and I cannot wait to use this. But let's take a look at this in just a little more detail before I scuff it up. And so this did come with the axe. You'll see here, prototype splitting axe, this little envelope directly from Sam. And on the back, very cool, has his sort of stamp there. Very nicely done. Just a little touch and pretty cool. Now, I'm not 100% certain if this is going to come with each and every one of them, or if it just came to me, but at this point, I'm kind of curious what's inside. I have been very patient as to not open this up. So let's get a look here. See if I can do it without damaging his stamp, which I do like. All right, so here we go. Business card. Sam Farnworth, Firekeeper Forge. And in here, well, let's see. Maker of the sharp and pointy, taking care of your new axe, steel. So just like the camp axe, this is in 4140 carbon steel. So a carbon steel, obviously, you do need to take care of, and we'll take a look at another product in a little bit to help me with that. Wood handle, and obviously the leather mask or sheath. So just some axe care instructions here, and here we go. Okay, so he did make a sketch. So here we have a sketch of the actual prototype axe. So the bearded splitting axe prototype. So get a good look at this. Definitely very, very cool. So looking here, a 4-pound head, a hickory ash handle, 4140 steel, and this looks like it might say 4142. So I will ask Sam about that specifically. And little autograph from Sam. So this here being a nice little sort of keeper piece. Greatly enjoy that, and a nice touch. But as we look at this in some detail, you'll see just the beautifully forged head. Again, 4 pounds, so nice mass and weight. Just beautifully done, gorgeous grind lines. Overall, absolutely spectacular. And one of the things that I do greatly enjoy is the actual contrast between sort of the leftover scale from the forging process and then the beautiful grind lines, just tastefully done and outlining the shape of the head. And that's also the case for the top as well as the back of that pole. So very, very nicely done. Perfectly machined and squared. Just a beautiful satin finish, and that grind incredibly, incredibly sharp. Sam's work is spot on and just perfect. Taking a quick look at the top, you'll see his logo, and then the handle protruding nicely and just sort of flared through the head, perfectly shaped. Now, it's going to be a little bit hard to see because of my guard, but Sam does a wonderful job shaping the handle absolutely perfectly to the exact tolerance and fit as it goes right through the eye of the head, and then just wonderfully shaped and sanded, nicely done. And the handle on this splitting axe is a little bit different from his camp axe. And if we take a quick look at the two side by side, you'll see here that the splitting axe, a little bit of a straighter handle with a flared end, and then here with the camp axe, a little bit more curves and a flared end, but just a slightly different shape. Overall, both with a very specific purpose, so the handle is really set up for the intended use. But both axes with that beautiful dark finish. Now you can get it in a number of different colors. I opted for the dark simply to set this apart from all of my other axes, and I think it just has a real sort of badass medieval look to it. But with that said, it's time to get to work, so let's do some splitting. And so for the most part, the bulk of the wood I have in my wood pile, I've been able to process down either with the smaller axes or even a large knife. But I definitely have some stuff here that's going to require a little bit of a larger splitting capability, and that's where I think the splitting axe is going to do a wonderful job, so hopefully I find out. And so, well, the proof is in the pudding. I am not all that great at splitting with an axe. However, I would go as far as to say, you know who probably is getting pretty good at it at this point? The maker himself, Sam Farnworth. So at this point, let's see if we can get him on the line.
Nice and toasty.
Boy, I tell you what, it's nice to have a Firekeeper Forge splitting axe to keep me nice and warm.
Sam, what's going on, man? How you doing? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Just got in from starting that little fire and getting my workshop all warmed up. Was just using the splitting axe, and my shop's gonna be nice and toasty now.
Beautiful. Well, hey, I've been, bringing everybody through a little bit of a journey here. So here I have your prototype splitting axe.
Yep.
Now, I was hoping you could talk to this just a little bit. This here is the prototype. I'm assuming the one that you were using is also the prototype, but what can people expect about what you've learned about this and what they may see in production?
Yeah, so the one I was using is indeed the prototype. It's the standard version versus yours, which is the bearded one. And usually I make prototypes of a new design just so I'm familiar with the process. So in case I need to make any tweaks, I can. The ones I'm currently working on for the production run, they are pretty much exactly the same. There's just a little bit of tweaking and tooling that I had to make for some minor changes that I wanted to see in them, but they're almost exactly the same as that one. And I'm excited to keep making more of them and keep developing them out.
So for the most part, the handle and the head design are going to be exactly the same?
Yep, pretty much.
So I had a question. I was making a little bit of an observation, and it seems like the shape of the head here, it's a little bit of a hybrid between sort of more of that traditional axe head and more like a maul. Any thoughts about that?
So like you mentioned, it is kind of a hybrid design. I find splitting mauls to be really unapproachable for people. They're heavy, they're hard to control, they're hard to maneuver, and they don't honestly work that well. So what I kind of did is I took the profile of a splitting maul, which kind of has that wider, more obtuse blade, and I kind of matched it with a smaller size axe so more people could use it. But it's also just a little bit more streamlined, so it's easier to control. It's a lot lighter. A person any size can use it without accidentally whacking their leg off. And I'm really happy with how it came out, and I'm really happy with how it performed. And I don't really know of too many axes like this, which I think is really awesome. And I think it's a cool idea to continue on with.
It's beautiful, man. And, in full disclosure, I mean, I am definitely not the best at splitting techniques. It's going to take a while for me to just get used to the tool, used to the technique. Now, do you have any suggestions or tips or tricks? I know for me, I always try to bite off more than I can chew. But I mean, for the most part, it did a great job. I just know that when you get into a larger log, it could be a little bit stubborn.
So for larger pieces of wood, and I definitely understand trying to split something bigger than you maybe necessarily need to, I usually like to start at the edge of the piece, and you can kind of whittle it down going around the circumference of it and then get to a smaller piece at that point. Then you can just split it through the middle how you normally would. But kind of whittling off little chunks is what I like to do for bigger pieces.
I think the mistake I was trying to make was establish a crack down the middle, and I'd keep working at it and then spin the log around and work at it. A couple times I'd flip it over and try to get it going from the other side, and even a couple times laid it down flat. I was like, I'm going to get that crack to go.
I've definitely done that before, so I think it's a universal human experience to try and do that. But sometimes you got to engage the brain, which is not something I do too terribly often, but it can be helpful occasionally.
Yeah, big axe, split wood.
Big strong man, I can do it.
Yeah. Well, Nice, man. I mean, as always, just beautiful, beautiful work. So do me a favor. I mean, before we take off, I was going to say before we split, but before we take off, just let everybody know what they can expect and how to get their hands on one of these splitting axes.
So as per all of my axes, they are available for pre-order. I'm kind of doing it every other month. You're welcome to go onto my website, check the production schedule. That'll have all of the upcoming projects, including axes. And usually the turnaround time is 6 to 8 weeks. There will be all the information about when things start, when they're expected to finish. And if people do have questions throughout the process, I'm happy to answer them and keep folks updated.
Nice. Well, thanks, man. As always, again, I greatly appreciate it. I mean, just beautiful, beautiful work. I have 2 of your tools now. I know this is just the very beginning of what's going to essentially be a collection. So I look forward to continuing to get my hands on your beautiful work. And as always, thank you, man. Great job.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. Happy to see the collection growing.
Well, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
All right. See ya.
Well, and so as always, it's great to catch up with Sam Farnworth of Firekeeper Forge. Sam, again, thank you, man. Great work. I am absolutely thrilled to continue to get Sam's tools in my hands. But before we take off here, I did mention that we had something that we were going to look at today to help not only with the splitting tasks, but the maintenance of the equipment. And Sam also makes what's called blade balm. So what you see here, it's a nice natural material, food grade, food safe, and a nice little sort of waxy like paste that you can use on literally all of your blades. You can use it on your leather, the handle. I bet you if you had to, you could use this as chapstick. But yeah, just a nice little paste that he actually sends all of his tools pre-coated in the blade balm. Now, it's a little bit hard. You could probably warm this up just a little bit if you were careful to apply it a little bit easier. Get a rag. You know, for me personally, I usually use the same rag, and I've been using literally the same rag for years. And you can see based on the amount of cuts and how tattered this is, it has been cut through and sliced by knife after axe after blade. But the good thing is, once you treat the rag, there's enough material and sort of the treatment on here to continue to use it. So just apply nicely to the blade. Get it nice and protected and coated so that when it's in storage, you have no problems, no potential for rust, and just keeping moisture away. And if you look, just real quick, it does a nice job cleaning, but also protecting. And just that beautiful sort of glossy finish. Not much in the way of a scent. So that's actually a good thing in my opinion. Just very neutral. But it does a nice job protecting your equipment. So Sam continuing to just, grow with his tool lineup, hone his skills. He's thinking about, not only creating the tools, but the protection that it needs. Very wise. So again, Sam, beautiful work, man. And so, all right, guys, there you have it. This is the Firekeeper Forge splitting axe. At this point, we've looked at a couple of Sam Farnworth's tools. Incredible, incredible work. So listen, guys, I told you on the last one when we looked at the camp axe, if you have not purchased a Firekeeper Forge tool, do it now while you can afford Sam's work, because someday you're not going to be able to. It is that good. He is making a name for himself. And I think Sam's going to have himself an incredible, incredible career. So ultimately, I highly suggest his work. I mean, beyond highly suggest. And I know for me, and as I mentioned, this is just the start of a wonderful collection. So Sam, again, thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon. And for the rest of you, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found that a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.